All right, guys, welcome back to Something Like Therapy. This is definitely the podcast where I'm hoping that when you leave, you feel a little bit better than when you first started looking at this podcast or listening to this podcast. It is definitely my desire that when we bring Something Like Therapy, you can walk away with something. And today I'm excited. I'm tired, but excited. Definitely got a special guest in the building today that I'm happy about. You're definitely going to hear a lot of laughs, probably more than normally on the podcast, but it's because this brother and I, we go back, and he's doing a lot of great things. It was definitely an honor to get him here. So today we're going to kind of talk about Boys from the Hood a little bit. That was what I kind of thought about the title, just seeing our lifestyle. So before we go on, let's go ahead and introduce you, Jerome Harris, man. What's going on, bro?
What's up, family? I'm honored to be here and honored that you consider me to be on your show.
Yeah.
And hopefully what is shared here will be helpful to all of your followers and listeners of this amazing podcast, man.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, man.
Sure.
I think one of the things we have to talk about, and I tell people, because with my life, just because of what I do, almost kind of closed off, and it's just closed off because you kind of build this trust factor and things like that. And so, I've been told, people say, man, a lot of people consider you a friend. A lot of people, consider you close, but I'm still kind of closed off. But with that being said, man, I tell people, no, there are people I can go to. There are brothers and sisters in my life, man. And you are definitely that one. I was just telling Precious, I'm like, look, I don't even know how to explain our relationship. Let's just put it like this. There is no, when I say brother, I mean, this is my brother. You know, people don't understand, man. We go back to diapers.
For sure.
We go back. Man, it's been a long time. And I, knowing that you were going to be here, I started just thinking about like our families as we grew up, man. And I was telling someone, I was like, their family had the bread and our family had the bologna.
Yes, sir.
And so we would be together and we would eat sandwiches. And people think like I'm not being dramatic when I say that. Like seriously, we would meet up and what was like the meat order or whatever. It's like if your mom had food stamps this week,
yes, sir, and
she didn't have them, whatever, man, we would get together. And I think about those things and seeing now the progression of where we are today. It's just like we may not talk every day, which we don't get a chance to. We're busy, but it's like it doesn't negate that this is my brother,
Yes, sir.
Any memories, man, that come to mind when you stay with any memories you think about?
There's a lot of memories, bro. Like when you were talking about just kind of where we come from, you were projects, I was Section 8. And so I remember, man, and you probably remember this too. We spent the summer at your crib, and we had a lot of memories just from there, like with the little bitty rocks that we used to throw.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was about time for us to go home.
Okay.
It's time for us to go home, and you just got these new school clothes that I was jealous of, and I stole.
Oh, man.
I stole your school clothes and
crazy.
Packed them away, and I got caught.
I remember
and
that.
I got my butt whooped by your dad for doing it. So that was like one of the like. And when I look back on it, it wasn't like there was any hate or like any real like jealousy that. It was like, it was a kid like, man, those some cool jeans.
He got them and I don't.
I want those jeans and he got them and I don't.
And the crazy part is, I'm sure they came from Ventures. They was probably from Ventures.
It didn't matter where they came from. They was better than the jeans that I had.
Man, no, dude, I think about stuff like that, man. When I just think our life period, like, and I think it's important just because, and we're going to get into where you are today, and even a lot of times when I'm dealing with work stuff, people always be like, oh, you must be, in this area, if you're watching in this area or listening. To say a guy is from the county, what we're saying is he didn't deal with things that you had to deal with in the inner city, and so it's almost it's supposed to be an insult. And so a lot of times they would listen to how I pronunciate or something like that, and they're like, oh, you know, you didn't have it rough. And even just always say how you dress and how sharp you are now. Yeah. They may not understand like what it was coming up like that. You had said something about my pops, which, you know, we were blessed to have him here a few weeks back, but my dad disciplined you, and that's just how close we were. Which, I mean, that doesn't fly nowadays.
Nah.
If you're not the biological parent, you're not teacher, neighbor, and you're not putting your hands on my kiddos. But that just shows you
how close our families were.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I did something towards your mom, I was doing it towards my own mom. And she didn't have to call my mom and say, just so you know, like, no, it was like, when you got picked up, I had to tear his behind up, and then you get another one because like you're embarrassed. So it's like, oh man, let's dive into your upbringing, man. Tell us about kind of like the area you grew up in, the housing situation, all that.
Yeah, so you know, as I said, we were the Section 8 family, and so we whatever house that was taking the voucher, whatever, we lived in there. So, we predominantly, we moved around a little bit, but where I spent most of my childhood was in the Ville. The Ville community, man. I find myself talking about the Ville community more and more with just the work that I do, and just kind of one of the areas that I'm called to serve is, the Ville it has its crime and it's underachieving schools in that area. My little brother got killed in the Ville. We got into a lot of trouble in the Ville, but the Ville at one point was the most prominent neighborhood for Black people. In a time we know about redlining and all of that, and so your prominent doctors, lawyers, attorneys, educators, they could only buy a home in the Ville. And so this is the neighborhood that I grew up in, and
But when you grew up in there,
it wasn't that.
Let's set that straight.
Let's set that straight. It's rich in history.
I was gonna say I don't remember saying no doctors.
No, that's past tense.
What was funny, man, is so being in the projects and what people don't understand, they call it the projects because it literally was a project.
It was a project.
They were putting high rises to see kind of how it went, and we would consider yours, like I say, just the Section 8. What people say the hood. That's what it is versus like the projects. They were the exact same crime, same poverty, same income,
no ownership.
But one thing I used to laugh about was when you came here to my house, they warned you, be careful. And when I went to your house, it was like, be careful. I was like, it's the same thing. And I even think about the community center. Anytime, I was with you, you wanted to go to Woes. And man, it was like, when I did that, it was almost like the water boy. Now, my mama said I can't go to the Woes. Or if you came over here, it's like, I'm going to the Cochran Community Center. But we always had that, be careful. And it's like, it's the same, it's the same thing, different day. So, man, like I say, just so many memories that I was thinking about there. I do want to hit there because one of the things that we noticed about our life was the similarities. And then I had to, like I said, a couple weeks ago, I had my dad on, and I was able to tackle some of those difficult conversations with him. Can you tell me about the relationship with your father?
Oh, man, I didn't have one. My dad was in jail all of my life for murder. And he recently just got out, I want to say a year and a half ago. It's been almost 2 years that he's been out of prison, but I wasn't fortunate to have him, and it's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing he wasn't there, because God put mentors in my life. A lot of mentors. It wasn't just one person, but I can point to several different men that I can attribute some sort of my personality or my demeanor or how I handle business to one of the men that God has put in my life. So yeah, my dad, he was absent, you know, just like a lot of cats in our neighborhoods was. And so but it was a good thing that, you know, God had a plan for our life, and it didn't matter if Pops was there or if Pops wasn't there. You know, the destiny that God had for us was going to be executed, you know, whether they were there or not. So yeah,
you dropped the bomb earlier, man. I didn't know you was gonna go there. Like, I knew when you was talking about why he was in. I was just like, I'm like, yeah. You just said it willy nilly. I'm like, okay, you know. But again, man, it's nothing that we're bragging on. It's just this is the life that we lived, and I even more so, you know, when we were growing up, you know, like you mentioned, there were some men that stepped up. And I remember, you know, when we were together, or I'll be at your house, and a guy would come over, and he was like, "That's my big brother." And I'm like, "Your big brother? Like, I know your family. That's not." I didn't even understand the big brother, big sister program. But you know, Moms was able to get you set up with that, and it did help, man. You know, it really and truly did help. It's just, man, like I say, we can go on about some of the stories, but man, unless you're from that area, you have no idea. It's almost a forgotten area, you know, whether it's the projects or just certain areas, man, it's forgotten. It's almost just like let them fend for their own, you know. And one of the reasons why it was important to speak with you, because when I think about that, and now in my life now, I run into people, and I know it's going to get a little. I don't want to start any commotion out there, but you know, I've heard the comment that, you know, well, if they wanted to, they could. You know, if they could, you know, if they wanted to do better. And I'm not necessarily here to say, you know, X or Y. But from that area, it wasn't until I had some exposure, you know, that kind of helped me to move from that. But man, you just have to understand, being in that environment, like that's it. It's where your parents from. It's where the grandparents from. Even the educators, unfortunately, because they're dealing with so much. The education that's even given to us is, you know, on the lower end, and it's nothing against them, but it's you know. I visit certain schools, and the main thing is, you know, you get A's and B's. Well, when we were growing up, it was like, just don't get shot on your way to school. You know what I mean? So it's how do you try to instruct a kid who is just worrying about, you know, some of the kids, we went there just so we can make sure we eat. You know, a lot of things, like we didn't sleep because we heard the police outside the building or the home all night. So it was just things like that. And so I just kind of want to paint the picture for those that are listening, just like this is you know, what we grew up in, and so many others, you know, but when they see, you know, how well you're doing, you know, there's a story behind that. You know, I've told people, man, you see, and I do appreciate all the accolades, but there is so many heartaches behind the smile and behind, you know, everything that I do. And it's because just that upbringing, you know, and like I say, my dad and I, we were able to tackle a lot of those areas and grow from that. Do you have children? Which I know just
yes, sir. I got 4 children that I love: Micah, Madison, Morgan, and Mackenzie. Yes, sir.
You know, man, my wife is so upset that I named all of our boys so close to that, because people know we're a blended family. But she was like, "Why would you name them that close?" So it's like when she's trying to call one, and they're looking like, "Nah." And it's not that she don't know them; they're so close. Yes. So how you had it so close? She's just like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, look, it made sense at the time, but I want to tackle kind of what you said of the absentee of your father. Did that impact on how you parent now?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
I take parenting personal.
Yeah, that's deep. What does that mean?
That means that my parenting is intentional.
Okay,
and it's intentional to what I didn't have, and what I wanted. And there was a lot of envy growing up, and there's probably still a little bit of envy to a lot of men today that are successful, that had that legacy sort of position in their lives that, they can, go back to their dad, and they can go back to their, granddad or great granddad. That legacy has been established of fatherhood and man. And sometimes for me, I can be jealous because, just like the rap term today, I had to get it out of the mud. I didn't have an inheritance waiting for me. I didn't have, from not just from a monetary point of view, but from just like, the life lessons that men pass down to their sons, the direction that men are supposed to be for their sons and daughters. I'm speaking as a son. I have 3 girls, but I'm speaking as a son. And so as I look at my girls and as I look at my son, I take it very personal, and I'm intentional about the lessons that I teach. And as a father, I can literally see the direction in life that they will go in. Okay. It's crazy. Like, it may not be spot on, like, Morgan is going to be a doctor, but just kind of her personality, her mannerisms, how she thinks, things of that nature. Morgan, since we picking out kids, Morgan could be really high strung. Okay. As far as her grades, if she doesn't do well, then she really gets anxiety and all that stuff. And generally, those type of kids are your straight A nerd, like overachievers and things of that nature. Yeah. And so with her, just like Madison and like Mackenzie, I can see the direction, as well as my son. Yeah. I can see the direction in life that they're headed in naturally. Okay. And so as a father, it's like my responsibility is not pushing them in the direction that I want them to go in, because I play basketball. Yeah. My son doesn't have an athletic bone in his body, but my daughter Madison does, right? And so my responsibility is to support them where they are, and just kind of be a guiding force in their life, and someone who can help them where they're already going.
Okay. Yeah. All that, man, I appreciate and respect that. Let me ask you, where did that come from? So being intentional with your parenting, because you didn't have the model. So where did that come from?
I don't know. I really don't, because when my son was born, there were all of these traditional or cultural sort of things that we do. As men, put a ball in his hand, and he used to play ball, and so he gonna play basketball and yada yada yada. But my son gravitated to the joystick. I have a picture of him in my office at the time at home. I believe he was 1 year old. He had a PlayStation, the old PlayStation joystick in his hand. And when I tell you, this kid is a gamer, he likes to develop games. He has an engineer's mind. Okay. And so it's like, you know what? I'm going to encourage him where he is. I'm not going to, force him. Now, I do believe that there are a lot of lessons that students learn in organized sports, that you learn in organized sports of teamwork and all those things. And so, you want to learn those things, but, there are other ways to teach that and develop your students with those things, those intangible lessons.
Yeah. See, man, you don't sound like you from Section 8, man. That's what I love about you, man. It's you're polished, and I appreciate that. We'll come back to the family stuff, but tell me, like, what are you doing now, man? Because there are so many things that I have, and I mentioned earlier, we don't get a chance to talk as often, but I'm always, when I hear something, people, have you seen what your brother did lately? I'm like, nah, show me the picture. Yeah. And I'm like, look at this cat, man, with his Argyle socks on, and he looking all spiffy. But what are some of the things you're doing today, man?
Man, God has blessed me tremendously.
Yeah.
I am the founding president and CEO of Urban Golf of Greater St. Louis, where we develop youth in golf education, after-school programming that includes, social and emotional learning, etiquette, conflict resolution, all those things, and academic assistance. So just kind of helping them with their education. Yeah.
Again, man, you're dropping these bombs and you're just going right past them. If you're listening and you don't get a chance to see the video, you are a African-American male from an area that may not have had the best support to succeed. And you're talking about a sport that, I mean, if you ask, you're African-American off the street, hey, tell me something about golf, everyone's going to say, Tiger Woods. So it's not a popular sport because, and only because it wasn't pushed in the schools that most of us attended.
That's a fact.
And so here you are completely breaking the mold, and not only do you golf, but you started something to expose. Remember, I talked earlier about exposure. That's what helped me, and so. To do this, dude, I mean, my hat goes off.
Yes, sir.
And I'll tell this story about that. I was working, I forget whichever school, as a school resource officer, and they were like, hey, the PGA is going to be in town. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I was like, oh, Tiger Woods. I said the same thing. I was like, oh, Tiger Woods. And they were trying to get tickets, and it was like a big thing, and it was like the talk for. It was a couple-day event, right?
Oh yeah.
So you see, I'm ignorant to it. So they were talking about this, and people was like, "You're not going down there? Like, do you guys work security down there?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't think so. Like, no, I'm not going. I'm not a part of that. I've tried to golf one time. It was a bad baseball experience." So I'm listening to all of this, and I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, I start seeing pictures of the event, and I see my brother,
yes, sir,
and a group of Black children, man.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, it wasn't just one or two.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold up. I was like, hey, how much is it to be down there? And they told me the number. I'm like, hold up. Like, I have to investigate, man. So please explain, like, what was going on there.
So let me give some backstory. Okay. Because, we developed a caddy program at Belle Reve Country Club. Where the tournament was. Yeah. Belle Reve Country Club is the most prestigious club around. Just kind of give you a glimpse of it. To be a member of Belle Reve, an annual. And I don't know this for a fact, but it's about $30,000 to $60,000 membership
to golf.
To it's more than that. But in any case, we were. I was talking to the GM at that time. We were starting the caddy program. They only wanted one of our students. And, me understanding the dynamics of, damage control and all that type of stuff. If something goes wrong, it's, it's only one kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was like, no, I vouch for all of my students. They're all great kids. And, I really don't want to do it if we can't, support all of these kids. These kids are great kids. And I put my name on it. Yeah. And so, they accepted all of our students as caddies at Belle Reve, and they did an exceptional job at caddying for the members at Belle Reve. They built relationships, exposure. Yeah. They were, exposed to doctors and salesmen and business professionals and so forth on the golf course. And so, coming from the men's league at Belle Reve, the PGA Championship came there, and all those students were standard bearers for the 100 PGA Championship. Which was crazy. I mean, it was thousands of people there. It was major. It was like, it was great, but it was work. Because I had to pick kids up from home, from the slum, from the hood, and take them out to Belle Reve, in their uniforms and things of that nature. And we had to be there at crazy hours, like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I had to make multiple trips going to pick kids up from home just so they can be there and represent us well. And that in and of itself is powerful. It is something that has and is not communicated to the world at large, and especially to youth in our communities, because our contribution to the game of golf is major before Tiger Woods. And that's unfortunate that we don't know that history. There's a lot of history that we don't know as Black men, as Black women, as a people, and our contributions to the game of golf is major. And I'm only going to pull out one fact about golf and our contribution. You start the game off the tee, in the tee box, right? Well,
I'm guessing.
So, you have your driver, you start the game off the tee. A Black man invented the tee.
Wow.
Can't start the game without the tee.
Without that. That's
every I would say about 15, because you have par threes or whatever. But, you say if you got a par 5, you're going to start off of a tee. And a Black man invented that.
Wow.
That's not communicated.
It's not, man. You see, I'm looking. I'm like, let me take notes, man. And I try. I love history, and I love psychology and the whole nine. So I didn't know that, man. Thank you for telling us that. One thing, man. When you were talking, my heart went out when you said, just the work of you going down to get them and stuff like that, man. And I'm telling you, brother, I would love to. I won't golf. I don't know how to do that. I stay in my lane. You need somebody handled or removed from the spot. Let me know.
Handled or removed.
But no, man. I think other people who hear this, because I mean, man, I would love to give back, and yes, I can do anything across the country, but it starts here. That's right. And so to know that you were giving these kiddos that exposure, but you had to do it personally. I didn't know, and I apologize. I didn't know, but man, I would have loved to, whatever part I could have done to help them get there, because I know the dynamic and how important it is to just see something other than yourself. And like you say, when we people think I'm being funny, but I was DSEG. If people don't know what the DSEG program is, but it's basically, certain schools get grants or whatever they get to pick up certain kids from certain areas that may not live in the same district. And so, our middle schools, we played basketball against each other, and when we had to walk through the middle schools, metal detectors, you couldn't bring in gangs and stuff like that. And so when I was DSEG'd out to my high school, it sounds funny, but that was the first time I had come in contact with white people. And I wasn't being funny. It was like, and so I would go home and be like, Mom, like, they did this today. It was like a show. Like, today they did this, and it wasn't trying to be funny, but it was like I've never had that exposure. I've only seen it on TV. You had Nick at Night and things like that, the Nickelodeon shows. So it was like you can do the comparison, but I've never come in contact. So knowing, and like I say, it sounds comical, but it's sad at the same time. But it's just exposure. So knowing that you were taking some of these kiddos that may not have had a male role model or even a positive female role model in there, and taking them and introducing them to a class of people, no matter the color, that can afford a $30,000 membership. I mean, that in itself is big. You know? So,
but something you said that's kind of like it's interesting that exposure is a topic. Exposure is pretty much poverty. The lack of exposure is the lack of resources, the lack of money, and it's interesting that we don't get the exposure because we don't have the resources or the money. But exposure in other communities well-to-do is not really that, because they are exposed. And so we definitely have a job to do to make a lot of this stuff normal.
And we appreciate it, and I like I said, I can't even imagine just how difficult that can be. And I'm sure you have to stand in places and vouch for, maybe maybe bad experiences that the people you're speaking to have to talk about or deal with. And so kudos, man, my hat go out to you. With the kiddos that you deal with, man, do you ever, because I'm sure it's rotating, right? It's not the same.
Yeah. No, we have my first group of students. They are juniors in college now.
Man, wow.
And they're doing exceptionally well. Very proud of them. Honor roll students.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about them a couple of days ago as these twin girls, man. And they'll tell you themselves that they would have been put out of school.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for us just advocating for them and being there consistently for their growth and development, and they got full ride scholarships,
big
full ride scholarships, and they're they're killing it in school.
I want to clap, but I don't want to be loud. I'm like,
we already did a clap check.
That feels like the appropriate response, man. Yeah. One thing you said though, when you mentioned the age or whatever, you didn't say a number. You said juniors in college, and that's big. I always tell people sometimes in the maybe in the urban community, the household is, Lord, I hope he finishes high school.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of talk about college. So for you to even say like my class, they're juniors, that's how you reference them. I reference them by the accomplishments that they're doing, not just by the age. Yeah. Again, man, just kudos to you. Yeah. Do you ever find some of the kiddos that remind you of you or us or any?
Whew. Yeah, they're those girls, they they had short tempers. Yeah. And people they see how, and they think I'm this calculated person that plays chess and knows the 10th move before he moves. But there was a time where
you were bad, man.
the temper was short, and it was just a response. Yeah. And those girls kind of, and I was able to connect with that.
Absolutely.
That's the only way that we can change lives. And I think that our life and our experiences that we have is just kind of just this thing that God takes us through to be able to support and service someone else. And so someone who went through a period of his life, that got put out of so many different schools because he couldn't control his temper and all of that, I can connect with that and help channel that in the right direction with exposure, with consistency, because a lot of it for me was just not having someone to cry out to, or not having somebody that was consistent. And my brother Ray, as you said, he was consistent. And so what I just showed was consistent love. I can laugh with you, I can joan on you, and all of those things. But I can also, because I have that platform of consistency, I can be very direct. I can call you out when you need to, when you need to be called out, and challenge you where you're wrong. And it's received because this person is in my life, and he's not just trying to run a program, but he's interested in me. And so a lot of my students, we were able to add those missing ingredients, in their success because we were them.
Yeah. Man, that's deep, man. I know we both end up branching off and dealing with young people, no matter what we were doing. I think it's just because there's something in us that know we have to give back. And when you mention that, I always talk about my times in the school as a police officer. And sometimes the teachers be like, what do you do? Like, what did you do with them? Like, how do you do this? And they would be like, it gotta be because, I'm like, a part of it is because, the title that I have. But I said a part of that is also they see something in me that they recognize. And I don't work for the district, so I can say things that you can't say.
That part.
But it was oftentimes, like, even when I would go, or they would call me to a classroom and just like, and it was nothing for like law enforcement, but you become a big brother. So they knew certain students, they knew they like to hang out with Officer Payton. So it's like, call Officer Payton, and I mean the kid clowning. And I just come in there and be like, oh, for real?
Yeah.
Let's roll. And immediately it's just like, the class simmer down. He walk out. I don't have to do anything. It's just like, let's go. And they're like, well, what did you? I wish I had a taser or whatever the stuff I would hear them say. I was like, I don't have one. I was like, it's not. It's. They recognize that, and I can give them something because the young man that's sitting there fighting everybody, it's not because he's just that angry. It's because he's hurting. And I recognize that hurt, like you said, and because I recognize that hurt, then I can literally be like, dude, come on, man, I need you to come to my car. I need you to move some stuff out of here. And they're so excited just to help because they want to be a part of something because we were once there. We just wanted to be a part, man. And when, you know, I'll tell your students, man, I'm telling you, hey, what do they call you, professor or teacher, whatever, man, you were not, I tell you, like, I love the fact that you could throw them hands. I love that. But just the only time I left you hanging was at church. If you fight at church, I'm nope, because I know that's like terrible. That's like 6 different disciplines, man. Right? Disciplinary action from. So I'm like,
fight at church.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
Oh man, when we were out, I don't care. Like, yo, this is my brother. He banging, I'm banging. When we got to church, I'll just sit there. I'll be like, man, Jamal's bad. He's bad, mama. Like, he need God. But no, man, we appreciate it. But it was that, and I can see that part. And I told people it wasn't a special skill. I was still trying to learn and perfect my craft, being a school resource officer. But a lot of it was the community and the school district that I was working in. I was just able to relate because of the things that we dealt with, man. And I imagine that's what you're doing. And I'm gonna tell you a story you never knew. I'll try to be brief. So can I? Your high school? Can I talk about your high school? All right. So you went to Beaumont, right? For those out there who knew that, and I found out that you were Mr. Beaumont.
Yes, sir.
Right? Mr. Beaumont, which is a big deal. But if you know anything about the schools in our area, I mean, it's all about what high school you went to. But again, I was DSEG, so my school got no credit in the hood, no credit whatsoever. And I remember I had to ride the Grand Bus. I was staying at someone's house, and I had to get to work. And you know, there are certain colors that I like to wear, and so I remember like that's all I had, and I was supposed to go to work, and the work uniform, the shirt was a certain color, and instead of just wearing the uniform, shoes, which were black and greasy, I would always make sure I had fresh kicks on, but they were a certain color, man. And I remember getting on the bus, and the Beaumont kiddies got out, man, and it was not the same color that you all was rocking with. And I'm sitting in the back of the bus, and I'm just like, I'm all the way under. I'm like, Lord, don't let them see me. And all of I heard is like, hey, what up, blood? I was like, I was like, dude, so look, I don't care what you say. There's a time to be smart. I don't care about how he was a punk. There's a time to be smart.
Facts.
Man, I was just like, oh, what's going on, guys? Man, I ain't even a part of that life. You know what I'm saying? I was like, as a matter of fact, my brother's Mr. Beaumont.
No, you didn't.
Oh, man, I threw you out so fast.
That's funny. I never knew that.
Man, I was like, hey, I am not taking this L today. I just want to get to work. And so, man, I never told you, but I'll never forget that, dude. I was so scared.
Wow.
I was like, I think a week after, I ended up buying a car. I won't tell you the age because they weren't supposed to sell it to me, but I had it. And
I remember you had a car.
Yeah, different life. But I was like, I can't do this. I was like, because either I'm going to get beat up every day.
For sure.
But yeah, man, he saw it, and I was like, dude, I'm not even a part of that lifestyle. Like, all the church scriptures started coming back to me. I was like, I cleaned up real quick, and I was just like, nah, man. I was like, as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to see my brother, Mr. Beaumont. Do you know him? Like, he's like, oh, Rome? I was like, yeah, Rome, man.
That's like, funny. Dog, it's about survival.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I've always appreciated your lifestyle, man. Appreciated our friendship. I do want to tackle something before we get out of here, man, and it's shifting gears a little bit because it's difficult for me. I know it's going to be even more difficult for you, but I did make sure that it was okay to talk about it for our viewers. So you mentioned earlier that your little brother was killed, and so like I say, it's crazy because I don't think about it as much. Every now and then, Jazz and I will talk about it. And so now that I have to confront it, it's like, oh, man, it's like, all right, take that deep breath. But, biologically, he was your little brother.
Yep.
But at the same time, you all were our family.
Yeah.
And there was no difference, and we shared everything from food to whoopings.
Yeah.
So it was like everything we did. And so your brother was killed. I know where I was. Somebody called me. I think it was my mom who was like, hey, can you come to the house? And I'm like, nah, Mom, what's good? Like, tell me. And then she told me, and I was just like, nah. So can you kind of just take us through a little bit of whatever you feel comfortable talking about, and then I'll kind of throw, because there's a lot that you and I haven't discussed, and I just want to kind of talk about as well.
For sure. I remember it like it was yesterday, bro. I was at work, and my mom called me, and I was ignoring her calls. I think her and my sister were calling. I was ignoring their calls because I was kind of focused and doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't doing my own thing. I was working. And I call them back because people call you multiple times. It's something serious.
Gotta be something. Yeah.
So I called back, and she was like, there was a shooting over here, and we trying to call your brother. We don't know where he at, but he was somewhere around. And so I go down Taylor and Garfield, and I see the yellow tape. Yeah. And I see the people. I'm like, what's going on? Trying to inquire. Call my mom. Like, where y'all at? And finally was able to. You got the red tape. You really can't see anything. They had things blocked off. And I meet my mom where they were. They were actually on the street, and they were further down the street to where you couldn't see what was going on, and they was still just kind of holding out hope. We sitting on the porch of some stranger's house, and I'm trying to call my brother, and no answer, and we're just waiting for them to identify and whatnot. And I think, my cousin, he's my mom's cousin. It's like an uncle. He was a detective. He's retired now, but he was, active duty during that time. And called him. And he was like, what's going on? Yada, yada, yada. And so they called us down to identify, the body in the street. And I'm like, ready to go. They wouldn't let me identify the body. And I'm like, okay. My sister goes to identify the body. And so she's walking down with the detectives and whatnot, and she gets down to the body, and she collapsed. It was at that moment. Yeah. It was at that moment we knew that was my brother. And part of me feels bad that I didn't view the body because I don't know what type of memories my sister have, and that is like, that was fresh. That was, he was shot up. Yeah. And so there's really no, I don't know. I didn't see it. So, he was killed. The story is that he was fleeing police, and he opened fired, and the police was shooting back, and subsequently he got killed. There are a lot of conflicting stories, around the hood, and whatever. None of that really matters because I don't have my brother. Yeah. And that's just it. I don't have him. That was the situation, and I dedicate my life to seeing young people successful, whether that's going to college or whether that's going to culinary school or whether that's going to cosmetology. I've dedicated my life to being a part of solutions and not about the rehearsal of the issues with police relations, the issues with the achievement gap and all of that. It's like, who's gonna create a plan for success? So
man, it's definitely difficult. like I said, just just doing this in a way to give honor to him. It's definitely sad, but want to give honor to him, man. Because like I say, when I confirmed with you, I started thinking about him, and I just started thinking about the moments, man. A quick moment for us to laugh. I remember we put him outside right out the shower, and he couldn't get in. And I remember like he was little brother,
yeah.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that you didn't view the body. And like you said, even with the stories, even with what I do, I still have heard different stories.
Yeah.
That was tough for me, man, because it happened right when I got into law enforcement. And man, I remember because of what happened, both sides were angry. Both sides were angry, and I remember I actually had to work that day, but nothing was gonna stop me. And I remember coming to the funeral, and I saw, man, so many guys there in the shirts, the T-shirts that they had on, which were, their truth was a message to that district.
Yeah.
But here I am, it was tough because you're my brother. I'm there. This is my brother. But I also just walked into a career. Yeah. And it's like, man, what do I do? And I remember just leaving everything I had, identifying just here because this is not the time.
Yeah.
But it was tough because it's like, this is the career I just chose.
Yeah.
And my first encounter with this career is it took my brother.
Yeah.
And so it's like, who do you vouch for?
Yeah.
And I was too young to know much about the Blue Line, but I'm like, this, when I saw him, this is all I saw. I know on this side, you're going to tell me that, he was fleeing. And like you said, none of that matters. It was just, all I knew was that my brother was missing. And so that was tough. And I know you and I, we never talked about it, man. No. I never felt there was an appropriate time. That's why I even asked you, is it okay if we discuss it? But man, I was so lost in that moment because it was like, I don't even want to tell him what I'm doing now because it's like, man, this is what's going on. And like you said there, we don't have to get into the story, but whatever story you hear, neither one of it was a good story. Right. And it had a terrible outcome. And so, like I say, it was difficult to do that. And, your little brother and my little sister, they were so close. Yeah. So close. And she was just, man, I mean, she was so hurt by it. I mean, she looked at your mom as much as a mom as, as you did. Yeah. So it was just like, that was her daughter. That was her brother. So, just dealing with that, man, it was such a tough situation. And one thing, man, that I applaud you on, because if you know me, I try to be a stand-up guy. And in this walk in my career, I've had people, people close, say things about my career. It's their truth. I'm not going to argue with them. It's their truth. But I know you have a valid reason to dislike what I do. And yet you've done nothing but support. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that, man. And I want to say in front of anyone who's listening, Dora, that I thank you for that. Like I said, it's been people who don't even have a personal experience. Yeah. Never been pulled over, never have just what you see. Yeah. And there's an automatic hatred towards me. Yeah. And we used to know each other. And like I say, you and your family, man, you all have a valid reason to hold on to something, and you didn't. And because of that, the best way you're celebrating his life is what you're doing. And for me, it was strategic that I brought this up after. Yeah. Because I want people to know what you're doing and to see, because they would have never known this story because there is no bitterness, man. What you're doing, you're planting positive seeds into these kiddos to where there isn't a repeat of history. Absolutely. And we don't know it, but man, how many bullets will stay in the chamber and in the magazine because of what you're doing. Absolutely. Because you're putting a golf club into their hands versus a bandana or a gun. Yeah. And that's deep. And we may not think, on that same platform. And sometimes people say, oh, you just think too deep. But man, that's what it is. That if young people have energy, and if we don't do something with that energy, we're going to do what we see. And right now we're battling a lot of things on TV where they're painting a picture of what's popular and what's fun.
Yeah.
When we actually dealt with this stuff. And so it's like, no, this is not the way. And so what you're doing is you're taking their energy and you're giving them something to do.
Yeah.
Something that they wouldn't have known.
No, that they wouldn't have decided to do on their own either. Yeah. It's both energy and time.
Yeah.
And time, you know, as a married man, you know, if you ain't putting in the time, don't try to look for time in other areas. Amen. But our kids, they need time, and not for somebody to take them out on a field trip. You know, my brother and I were both put in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. Yeah. And when I look back and I reminisce, the only difference was my brother was consistent. Yeah. You know, my little brother, he had about 4 or 5 different mentors. Yeah. And a lot of guys, they come towards nonprofit work and mentor to look good. Yeah. It's a resume builder. And there is really no commitment to be a part of someone's life, to change their life. And my big brother, he had every right to bail out and abandon ship. Yeah. Like, you know, I got put out of so many schools, you know, as you said, as you know, as what was known. I had a hot temper. You know, I was just always in trouble. Yeah. But he and others, but, you know, specifically him, because of the time that he put in, was one of the main reasons why my life took a turn, you know, for the better. And, you know, for a lot of our kids, they have a lot of time on their hands. They're not adults. They don't have to go to work. They don't have to do all those things. And so what we need to do is as mentors and leaders in our community is to take up that time and bring them into our worlds and show them certain things, teach them certain things like tying a tie or changing a tire, or, you know, just going to the dry cleaners. Like, absolutely. Like, I had I didn't go to a dry cleaners when I was a kid. I didn't have clothes like that. But now I go to the dry. I spend a ton of money in the dry cleaners because of what I wear, and because of my brother, I saw a picture that I didn't see. When we ate dinner. We ate it in front of a TV. My mom was working 2 jobs, doing the best she could. And, you know, we was either spending time at Woes or we was on the block, flipping down the street, playing basketball in the street. You know how we did. We tore up mattresses and springs, and we flipped. But my brother, he showed me something different, you know, something other than, you know, making noodles or whatever we had in our fridge at the time. You know, I got to see something different. I got a chance to see a man come home in a tie. I got to see a man's kids run up to him and hug him like, Daddy, you know, we missed you. I got a chance to see dinner at the table. And because of that exposure, I made a decision and said, I want that. Yeah. Which was one of the main reasons why I got married. But you know, that's a picture that I wanted. And, you know, when my kids see me come home, you know, dressed like I'm dressed, they give me that same hug, and I'm filled with joy and pride, you know, because I chose something other than what I saw. Yeah.
Man, that's deep, bro. Man, that's deep, man. Man, I'm sitting here. I'm still sitting there, just like, gosh, man. If you're out there listening, man, and you're not, hopefully something said that will spark a fire, man, that we can do better. Yeah. Like I say, I help when you can, you know, but I'm not impressed when people want to travel thousands of miles to help when we have so much even right here. Do that as well, but also even today, man, and you're doing that, bro. Like I say, you have every reason, even just our area, man. We have, you know, we could use that excuse that, you know, you all didn't care about us. Why should we care about you?
That part.
But because we did have exposure told you, because we saw something. We're trying to, like I say, plant those positive seeds, man, and you're doing that. Before I let you go, man, is there any way people can contact you or help out the business or whatever?
Absolutely. They can go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn at UGolf STL. It's Urban Golf of Greater St. Louis, www.ugolfstl.org. Okay. Follow us on all social media handles at UGolfSTL. And you can see all the amazing work we're doing online, and you can support us on our website. And, we got a lot of things coming up soon that I'm excited about. I can talk and go on, to answer your question, that's where we are on all social media handles.
No, man, that's good. I know some of those, and hopefully you do go on there, because you are doing some things, man. When I see you standing next to familiar faces, and I'm like, dude, I seen this person on so we're definitely proud of you, man. We're gonna get out of here, man. But again, thank you. Hope you out there listening. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully something was said, and I do believe that no matter what, if you thought that you couldn't make it, you can. If you thought because of your upbringing that you can't do better, you can. You do not have to be a product of your environment. And if you're someone who able to reach back and help, and I challenge you all to help. So until next time, thank you for tuning in, and be blessed. Hey, what's going on, everyone? I want to thank you for tuning in again to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank my brother for stopping by. Definitely took a lot from him today. And it's time for the word of the day. The word of the day is sedulous. It's sedulous. And a sedulous person is someone who works hard and doesn't give up easily. And hopefully tonight's podcast, you saw just that. Young men who grew up in the area that may not have had the best support, but we didn't give up. And every day we're trying to make it, and I hope you're doing the same. So until next time, be blessed.